plans and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Democracy. Yeah, fuck democracy. Now, if you've watched any sort of news or heard any politician talk recently, they've said democracy quite a bit. But here's the problem. We're not a democracy, and there are some major problems with an actual democracy. So let's start out by explaining democracy.
Democracy has hairy armpits. It could lose 5 pounds.
Democracy is if you have, let's just say, 100 people. Now, those 100 people get to make their own rules. They get to govern based on the will of the majority of them. That also only requires that 51% of them vote alike. And what happens to the other 49%? Well, their needs aren't met, nor are their rights respected. With this, you end up what's called the tyranny of the majority.
Write that down, write that down!
What that means is the majority said so, so fuck you. Now, once again, this is not what America is, or at least not what it was founded to be. I really despise hearing every single politician, every news anchor, just a ton of people saying, this isn't our democracy, this is a danger to our democracy this, our democracy that. It should be saying our republic. Now, what is a republic? At least in the way that ours is formed. We have a constitutional republic. Now, our constitution, contrary to what many believe, the Constitution doesn't actually grant us rights. The Constitution does no such thing. The Constitution was written to outline the purview of where the government is allowed to operate. Pretty much saying, these are the things you're allowed to do. You're not allowed to go beyond this. Whether or not our government has listened to that, well, we know it hasn't. But still, that is how it is intended to work. We have a constitution and a Bill of Rights. And our Bill of Rights outlines our actual rights. Now, these are not rights that are given to us by daddy government. You know, Joe Biden didn't stroll on down there and just, sniff a bunch of kids and say, hey, here you go. You're allowed to own a Glock. No. And neither did Trump or George Washington or Calvin Coolidge. None of them. Not a single president has the authority to give you those rights. These rights that we have in America are inherent. Now, whether you believe that that came from God or it's just something that you are born with, whatever. Point is, you're alive, you have these rights. And the government is not supposed to actually be able to infringe upon them. That the majority cannot violate the rights of the minority. Now, the minority here being the individual. Anytime you hear somebody talk about minority rights, they're typically talking about a particular group that they believe needs some form of protection. Whether or not they actually need that, I always see it as a violation of the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause, but still. The point being is that the smallest minority that one can get is the individual. It's not some group of people that identify as pluralities.
They went that way.
Okay, male or female?
Neither. They, them.
What?
It's not a group of people that are a particular tone of skin.
And it didn't matter if they were black, white, green, or purple.
It is not a particular anything. It is the individual. You alone. So whenever anybody is saying our democracy, they're coming from a point of complete misunderstanding of the values of how this country was founded. In a democracy, you would be able to have the popular vote of this country be the only thing that matters. It's also why we have the Electoral College.
The Democratic Congresswoman catching heat from the heartland over that Instagram video where she is calling the Electoral College a racist scam.
That way, the big cities, places like San Francisco, New York, all of that, they don't get to determine essentially the destiny of the rest of the country. At least they're not supposed to be able to. But within a democracy, just because they have more people would mean that they have all the power. That means that your ability to speak freely about what you believe in or practice the religion of your choosing, which, mind you, would include Satanism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Pastafarianism, all hail the flying spaghetti monster. Well, if the majority said you couldn't do it, you couldn't do it. That right is now gone, poof, into the ether. The same, of course, going for whether or not you have the right to defend yourself, whether or not you even just have the right to keep and bear arms in general. Quartering soldiers, well, the majority says you have to, so now you have to. Property rights go out the window. Pretty much everything that you hold dear is up to majority vote. That is why democracy is inherently evil, because you have given power to others to steal whatever the hell they want, provided that they convince enough people to vote along on the bargain. Within a republic, you have the right to defend your rights. You're actually encouraged to by the writings of our founding fathers. The whole tree of liberty and all that. The point being, we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Our constitution is essentially the framework that outlines how our government is allowed to operate. It has extended far beyond that because people have started introducing new terms and saying, but we're a democracy. But we think we should have this power. Congress giving up their power to various alphabet agencies, all of which is something that the Constitution explicitly prohibits. This is why it is important to not change words around. So whenever you call this country something, call it what it is. The Republic. So this right here, in a democracy, the majority of people could say, we don't believe that you should own an SKS. But in a republic, I get to tell them to suck on the end of the barrel. And I get to do all of this because I am born with inherent rights that cannot be violated by the majority. So please, anytime you hear somebody say democracy, tell them to go fuck themselves. Now, within my home, I am the majority, and the majority says that I'm having steak tonight and that I might fuck my wife. Have a good one.
He's autistic, not simplistic, hates the left, no sword, but him dick. Likes his guns, man, so artistic, you know he is.